Hi everybody, it's Ben Thompson here from the Import Export Podcast. Today we're talking about SOLAS regulations and some of the options that shippers have to correctly verify the gross mass of their shipping containers and create their VGM declarations. As most people involved in global trade would be aware, in 2016, the International Maritime Organization introduced strict new SOLAS regulations to ensure that shippers will correctly weigh and verify the gross mass of their loaded containers. This is to ensure that containers can be safely loaded and shipped without accidents happening throughout the supply chain. So today we're joined by Greg, who's the CEO of Bison Jacks, to discuss some options that shippers have to create their VGM declarations. So Greg, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ben. Good to be here.
So Greg, before we get started, tell me a bit about the experience you've had in the logistics industry and how you guys have come about to developing unique solutions for the shipping industry.
Yeah, so I've been involved in the container logistics space for the last 5 to 6 years, mainly as a developer and manufacturer of container lifting and weighing equipment. Yep. Back in about 2013, we were a very small company developing container lift equipment, and we had weighing as formed part of the control system. And the feedback we got from the industry then was that the weighing side of it was going to be useful. People weren't 100% sure why, but it led us to discover that the VGM rule change was on the horizon. Yeah. And looking at that further, we saw that there was really no portable system or scales for weighing shipping containers. We saw an opportunity, so we conceived a design, filed a patent claim on that, and just started developing a solution that we thought would be useful for shippers once that container weighing requirement came into play. And as things played out, we were well positioned in 2016 to support the industry when the alarm bells started ringing around how we're going to weigh our containers efficiently and satisfy this new weighing rule. So it's proven to be a fairly successful product and venture built around our container weighing equipment.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds really good. Obviously, a lot of things have changed, and shippers must understand their requirements. So just as an overview, basically, for shippers to comply with the SOLAS regulations, they have two verified ways to weigh their shipping containers. That's using method one, which is usually to get the containers weighed at a truck weigh bridge on the way to the port and get on charge for those costs. Or they can use method two, which is if they can correctly weigh and verify the weight of their cargo as it's loaded inside the shipping container, well, then they can create their own VGM declaration document. At IncoDocs here, we provide a software tool that allows shippers to create the VGM document. But of course, first, shippers must be able to accurately weigh their cargo before doing so. And understand that your CJAX and VGM software is a really unique solution that allows shippers to actually weigh their containers on site. So can you tell me a bit about how that process works?
Sure. So CJAX are a method one alternative for the VGM. So basically, you can weigh the container physically a number of ways, including at a weighbridge, or there may be scales attached to the handling equipment somewhere in the chain that can weigh the container. Our system is a dedicated set of very portable scales that a shipper or a freight forwarder may have in their yard, which they can pull out and use to weigh the container on site. And the advantage of that is you can weigh the container at the time and most convenient time and place for the operation, rather than waiting for the container to be weighed, perhaps en route to the terminal at a weighbridge or at the terminal as well. Yeah. And when you're weighing later on in the chain after the container's been packed and sealed, you don't have an opportunity to remedy any issues around the weight. For communicating that weight information to the terminal and the relevant sort of interested parties. So basically, to describe the CJAX, they're basically a portable a portable scale for that attached to the container. There's four scales actually. They attach to the bottom corner castings of the container. We just use hydraulic jacks just to jack the container clear of the ground or clear of the chassis. And then the load at each corner is sent wirelessly to a smartphone and app on the smartphone. The combined total of those four corners gives you a really accurate gross container weight. So the jacks have got a weighing capacity of 35,000 kilograms, and you can handle all ISO containers, of all types and sizes: high cubes, reefers, flat racks, ISO tanks, basically any container with corner castings. So suitable for grounded containers, and also we supply some stands with their kit so that you can weigh containers sitting on chassis as well. And what's really cool about it is you get to digitize the weight at the point where you're weighing the container. Unlike other scales, which tend to produce a little paper docket or just display a number that needs to be written down, we've developed an app which can receive the weight information from the scales on the spot by Bluetooth. It'll digitize the weight, allows you to check the container's load distribution on the spot. You can take photos, you can capture other shipment details, perhaps the seal ID, and reference information relating to the container or the shipment. And you can then email all of that information, or push that out of your app by email to your office or to third parties, and essentially email a detailed weight record with a VGM certificate attached as soon as the container's weighed. So the app keeps information flowing. It can improve efficiency and keep the team in control of your critical container information. It's a lot more efficient than the old pen paper calculator method of either calculating the weights under method 2, or getting a weight docket that needs to be taken to the office manually or manually keyed into a computer system. So in all those respects, it's a fairly compact, efficient, safe tool for taking out to the field, weighing your container, but then getting that information straight into the IT system.
Yeah, I've seen a video of how it works, and I must say it looks very, very compact, these jacks, and quite simple and easy to use. And takes a process that was previously quite complicated and allows somebody to literally weigh a container on site, to get their weight distribution and VGM declaration and certificate all in one. How long does it take, the process from start to finish, for somebody to set up the jacks and weigh a container and get their weight documents? And can anybody do this?
Yeah, it's really easy to use. The scales have got one button, so very, very simple for anyone to understand and operate. The time frame is pretty quick. If a container's on the ground, it might take you 5 minutes for one person to attach the jacks to the container, jack it up, weigh the container, send that information away via the app, and then pack the system away. So a 5-minute operation for a grounded container. Typically the task is done by the guys or the team responsible for loading the container, and they'll just add they'll just do that at the end of the process before they close the doors and seal the container. If the container's up on a chassis, the process might take a few minutes longer, maybe 8 minutes. Depends a little bit on the site, the conditions, the type of chassis you've got, and a few other variables. But it's a 5 to 8 minute task, depending on where the container's located. Yeah,
sounds good. So they're available obviously for people to weigh containers on site. How many containers would an exporter have to be shipping, for this solution to be workable for their process?
It really depends on the cost of the alternative spin, and also the cost of getting your weights wrong. So take some examples. We've got a customer in Europe who manufacture furniture. They were paying about €15 per container to have their containers weighed at the terminal for VGM purposes. They ship 1,300 containers a year. It's kind of seasonal. It's not a consistent number every week. But in the course of the year, they were spending nearly €20,000 on terminal weighing charges. By investing in our equipment, they bought CJAX with stands and some backup equipment as well to ensure that there was no downtime. They got payback on their investment in less than 7 months. So pretty fast. So particularly in locations where the terminal or the weighbridge charges are quite high, then it's a really serious option for a shipper, and they could save a lot of money by bringing that weighing process in house, and avoiding those charges. Another example, though, would be people who aren't necessarily looking at it from the point of view of what does it cost me to weigh every container. They maybe also could be looking at it from the point of view of, well, what's the value to us of getting our container weight right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And optimizing the container payload, there's real value to that. Just as people want to maximize the space of the container, sometimes you may want to maximize the available weight. So another example would be a local exporter of seafood and related products, byproducts. They ship fish oil, which is a really expensive commodity, and thousands of dollars per ton. So optimizing the payload for them is really valuable. So they've got CJAX now, which are portable. They can take them to the different wharves where they're unloading vessels and piping the fish oil off the vessels directly into the container. And they can measure the weight of that container in real time and maximize the payload. They can stop that loading it at exactly the right point. And they can do this rather than disconnecting the container, hauling it to a weighbridge, checking it. So they come back, reconnect it, keep loading, guess again. It just takes the work out of the operation. So for shippers of bulk commodities, whether it's powders, chemicals, liquids, wines, another example of an industry where we've got some really happy customers. The scales are great for just maximising payloads.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a few use cases there which I wasn't really aware of. Just how important it is to maximise the weight, especially in the case of the fish oil. Otherwise, you're not just losing time and money. You're not maximising the load. You're not maximising the sales. So that's another great case. Yeah.
And the other scenario we see is people who run the risk of overloading their containers. So if you've got particularly heavy cargo, scrap metal is a good example. If you overload it and get caught, there can be penalties and costs down the logistics chain. And so if you can weigh that container at the pack point, optimize the load, but make sure you're not overloaded, you can just eliminate those costs and complications as well.
Yeah, and I think shippers need to take that into consideration too. It's not just a cost and time saving, but what is the actual cost of getting this wrong? And it can be quite severe if mistakes are made and accidents happen, and shippers will be held liable, and that can be catastrophic to any business, really. So
Yep. Really, the other scenario that's where the jacks are really useful is to shippers who are invoicing customers based on weight as well, or volume. And having another certified method of verifying the weight or the volume of their liquid, and doing that at source, that can lead to more accurate invoicing, less complications or disputes with counterparties and so on. So people trading bulk liquids and powders and other commodities, they're using the jacks to just trade with more assurance.
Yeah, that sounds great. And what countries are your jacks available in right now?
Yeah, so we've got the CJAX are in use in about 40 countries now. We're really proud of the level of uptake around the world. We had quite a lot of sales globally in 2016 as the VGM rule change kicked in. And that's given them, allowed them to be seen quite widely, and that's led to continued good business. So some of our customers, they include some of the major forwarders, Kuehne + Nagel and DSV, We've got Bot Gas and Hexion GE using them in different parts of the world. Bot Gas is a good example there in Papua New Guinea, where container weighing infrastructure isn't as readily available, and for them they've got this self-contained system and method of verifying their container weights. We supply calibration kit that allows customers to recalibrate the scales themselves as well. So it's quite self-contained for customers in the islands.
Okay.
And we've also, in the last year, had some really good orders from military customers. So they're used by NATO in Europe, US Army, a number of bases around the world have adopted them, US Air Force and Navy as well, and a few other defence ministries in Europe as well have bought made some good orders and have deployed them in their operations.
Yeah, that's in many places around the world in many different cases. So yeah, that's no doubt. They provide a lot of value to people along the supply chain. That's why you've seen so much success. So yeah, no, well, okay, well, yeah, that's I think that covers most of it. As we said, it's important that shippers understand that these SOLAS regulations are in place and that there are options out there to help them accurately weigh their cargo and quickly weigh their cargo and meet these regulations so that they don't have any problems or issues along the supply chain. So yeah, the product looks great. Congratulations on the progress so far, and yeah, we'll keep in touch.
Great, I appreciate it. Been really good to talk to you.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Cheers.
Okay.
Bye.